Heel turn. Millionaire rips shirt off waitress, her tattoo will haunt you forever. The glitzy gala at the opulent Grand Marquis was buzzing with energy, laughter echoing off the golden walls. But tonight wasn't just any lavish affair. It held secrets darker than the shimmering chandeliers overhead. As champagne flowed like a river and the rich indulged in their excess, one waitress, Amy, darted among them, balancing trays heavy with crystal glasses. Her heart raced, she could feel a storm brewing, an electrifying tension pricking at her skin. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the faux elegance. All eyes turned to the center of the room where Victor Weston, the millionaire known for his ruthless business tactics and roguish charm, stood in a wild frenzy. He ripped off his expensive shirt, sending it flying like a paper airplane through the air, gasps erupting around him. But the real shocker came next. Beneath the chaos, Amy's tattoo, a massive serpent winding around an open mouth, stood out like a brand amid the whispers of disbelief. Each twist of the serpent's tail was a reminder of power and pain. As Amy caught her breath, she felt the heavy weight of the crowd's gazes. People leaned in, exchanging hushed murmurs. She wished for the ground to swallow her whole. The scene froze as Victor turned his gaze towards her, his eyes dark and hungry. "You think you can hide from me, Amy?" The room held its breath. The tension was palpable, a heartbeat echoing in the silence. Was he playing a game, or did he see something more sinister in that tattoo? Had it been a mark of the past, an echo of her unforgotten sins? Amy shivered, a lump forming in her throat. The world around her blurred as whispers turned into a haunting melody of intrigue, sowing doubt into her mind. Something dark loomed overhead, weaving fear into the fabric of that night. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the crowd buzzed with chaotic curiosity, Amy's trembling hands reached up to cover her tattoo. But it was too late. The beast on her arm had drawn a line between her past and the present. Faces shifted with excitement and dread, and she felt like a moth trapped in a room of flames. Victor stepped closer, his shadow looming large, whispering promises and threats all at once. "You'll regret it," he said, eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she realized tonight was not just about a millionaire's outburst. It was about a sinister connection, one that intertwined their fates. What horrors had the tattoo unleashed? What did Victor know that she didn't? Fear gnawed at her heart like a hungry wolf, but curiosity clawed at her mind. The walls of the Grand Marquis seemed to twist and close in as her past threatened to crumble around her. What would happen next? The world around Amy shifted, a blur of gold and champagne, laughter mixing with the sharp whisper of fear. Victor's eyes bored into her, an abyss where shadows danced, threatening to pull her in. The crowd held its breath, waiting for something to break, something to crack open in the tense silence. "Does the serpent speak to you, Amy?" he taunted, his voice smooth like silk but edged with steel. Every syllable slid into her consciousness, burrowing deep. Her heart hammered. She fought to breathe, a tightness gripping her chest. The truth stood just beyond her reach. If Victor knew anything about her tattoo, it would surely ruin her exposed secrets she had long buried. "Leave her alone," an unexpected voice shouted from the edge of the crowd. Surprised gasps erupted, drawing attention away from her, at least for a moment. It was Jane, another waitress. She pushed forward, her eyes blazing with determination. With the full weight of everyone's gaze redirected, Amy felt a flicker of hope. Victor turned, surprise etched on his face, but the darkness in his eyes only deepened. "This doesn't concern you, Jane," he replied, his tone dismissive yet layered with danger. What you're doing is wrong. Jane shot back, stepping closer to Amy, defiantly. She's just trying to do her job. You arrogant enough. Victor smirked, fingers clenched. If she hides behind her tattoo, then perhaps she's not as innocent as you think. His words were a whip crack, underscoring the tension that swirled through the room. Amy felt her skin crawl, adrenaline pumping through her veins. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a trial. The stakes heightened her innocence against his power, her secrets laid bare for all to see. Suddenly the power went out. The chandelier's glow vanished, plunging the room into eerie darkness, punctuated only by gasps of confusion. Tension spiraled. The sounds of hurried footsteps and murmurs filled the air. In the chaos, Amy spun around. There, in the shadows, she glimpsed a figure slipping away, hurriedly, but familiar. It was Max, another coworker at the bar. Someone she had passed countless times, shared small talk, and even smiled at. What was he doing here? Amy Jane's voice broke through the confusion, bringing her focus back. We need to move. Now. Wait, where's Victor? She panicked. Her heart raced as a flood of urgency washed over her. Forget him. We can't stay. Jane grasped her wrist, tugging her toward the rear exit. But Amy hesitated, torn between fleeing and confronting the monster in her past. A loud bang echoed through the walls, sending shards of anxiety spiraling through her. Victor's roar cut through the chaos like a knife. You will answer for this, Amy. The lights flickered back, and Victor stood, a formidable figure in the center of the room, rage simmering beneath the surface. The council of the crowd's whispers morphed into a menacing roar, as unseen tendrils of panic gripped everyone. Jane pulled Amy into the dimly lit hallway. Go. We can't let him find us. But as they stumbled into the dark, another thought crashed through Amy's mind. What if Victor wasn't the only one looking for her? They darted out into the night, breathless. The gala's facade faded behind them, leaving only the taste of fear hanging in the air. What did Victor truly want? And as the fog wrapped around them, that unsettling question clawed its way into her thoughts. Once more, what secrets lay beneath the surface of her tattoo? And who would pay for them? A siren wailed in the distance, closing in fast. The world was shifting, and Amy needed answers before it swallowed her whole. Would she run or confront her demons? The choice loomed before her like the serpent on her arm. What would she decide? The alley was narrow, the air thick with the scent of damp asphalt and fear. Amy and Jane pressed against the cold brick wall, breathing heavily as sirens wailed closer. The chaotic scene inside the gala felt like a lifetime away, but the danger seemed to seep into every shadow around them. Why did you have to say anything? Amy's voice trembled, a mix of gratitude and panic. You didn't have to get involved. Jane's grip tightened on her wrist, urging her forward. I couldn't stand by and watch him intimidate you like that. But we need to focus. We have to get to safety. With the sirens echoing in the distance, a shiver of dread ran down Amy's spine. What if Victor comes after us? He won't know where we went. Not yet. Jane's voice was calmer now, steadying. We need to blend in, be invisible for a while. Trust me. They moved furtively, slipping deeper into the labyrinth of alleys. Each sound seemed exaggerated in the stillness that engulfed them, footsteps echoing, the clatter of trash cans, a distant shout. Fear filled the spaces between them, threading through the air like a living thing. Then, they spotted a flickering light from a nearby diner. A neon sign buzzed, casting a ghostly glow that broke through the shadows. Jane hesitated. It might be safer to hide somewhere public, or we could be trapped. Amy's heart raced. What if Victor has people looking for us? Before Jane could respond, a sudden crash echoed behind them. They froze as a shadow darted around the corner. Amy squinted into the darkness, her heart pounding wildly. Was it Max? Had he followed them? Or was it something worse? I'll check it out, Jane said, her voice barely above a whisper. Stay here. No, don't leave me. An instinctive terror clenched Amy's throat. The possibility of being alone, particularly now, made her feel exposed, vulnerable. But Jane squeezed Amy's shoulder, her eyes fierce. "I won't be long. Just keep quiet." As Jane slipped back into the shadows, Amy felt the weight of the darkness creeping in around her. She swallowed hard, her mind racing. How had everything turned so chaotic? One moment she was serving drinks, the next she was on the run. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a flicker of movement. Heart in her throat, she pressed against the wall. Straining to see, a figure emerged, stepping into the dull light, and Amy almost gasped. It was Victor. The anger in his stride was palpable, his figure silhouetted against the neon glow. "Where are you, Amy?" His voice rang out, filled with a chilling confidence. "You can't hide forever." The urge to bolt screamed in her bones. But where was Jane? Where were they supposed to go? Just as she turned to flee, a hand grabbed her shoulder, spinning her around. "Amy!" Jane's breathless voice flooded her with relief, but it faded quickly when she saw the look in Jane's eyes. "We have to move now." Without hesitation, both women took off down the alley, Victor's voice shrill behind them, punctuated by the howls of sirens drawing nearer. "You think you can escape me?" he taunted, the ominous echo slicing through the darkness. But Amy wasn't just running from him. She was running from the truth, from the serpent inked on her skin, a mark of a past she couldn't shake off. As they stumbled onto a deserted street, the sirens intensified, blaring like the impending storm that loomed over them. Amy felt a pull and urgency. She needed answers about Victor, about the tattoo, about everything that had led her to this moment. Suddenly, from the shadows, a voice called out, one that sent icy fingers trailing down her spine. "I've been waiting for you, Amy." A figure stepped forward, a ghost from her past that she thought she'd never have to face again. It was Max, but there was something different in his eyes, a glint of something sinister. And in that moment, as the fog thickened around them, reality shifted once more. What secrets had Max uncovered? Who was really hunting her now? The answers felt so close yet dangerously far away, slipping through her fingers like sand. She had to decide fight or flight, trust or betrayal. The stakes had never been higher. What was Max hiding? Amy's heart raced as Max stepped closer. The dim light of the street lamp painted his face in shadows, highlighting the tension etched into his features. "You shouldn't have come back." His voice was low, almost a growl. "You were supposed to stay away." "What are you talking about?" Amy's voice quivered, barely masking her fear. She exchanged a glance with Jane, who stood rigid beside her, assessing the sudden threat. The sirens blared louder, a cacophony of chaos, threatening to engulf them both. Max took another step forward, his gaze locked onto Amy's tattoo, the serpent coiling like a living thing upon her skin, symbolizing a past she fought hard to ignore. "They're looking for you. They won't stop at anything." Victor's not the only one who's interested. Amy swallowed hard, her throat dry and tight. "What do you mean?" The shadows enveloped them, the night air heavy with danger. "The organization it isn't over. You thought escaping would save you, but they track every move." That tattoo, Max's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's a beacon, a mark of ownership. They'll always find you." A cold wave washed over her, fear creeping into her bones. She turned to Jane, her friend's eyes wide with uncertainty. "We need to leave now," Jane insisted, tugging at Amy's arm. But a terrible realization began to sink its claws into Amy's consciousness. Before it's too late. Suddenly, a shadow loomed behind Max. A figure burst from the darkness, clad in black, a glint of metal flashing under the streetlight. "There you are," the newcomer said, voice like gravel as they charged toward them. "Run!" Jane screamed, and the three of them bolted in opposite directions. The street unfolded like a maze, the night alive with urgency. Amy felt her lungs burning, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Where do we go?" she gasped, glancing back. Max was right behind her, sprinting like a man possessed. "It's not safe here. We need to find shelter," Jane shouted, her breath coming out in quick bursts. But there was nowhere to hide. The houses appeared abandoned, shadows stretching into forbidding shapes as the menace followed them relentlessly. Panic escalated when Amy noticed a flicker of metal in Max's hand. He reached for her, eyes wild. "You don't understand. They'll kill you if you don't find a way to control it." "I don't want this," she cried, shaking her head. "I never asked for any of this." But before Max could respond, a loud crash shattered the silence from behind. They skidded to a halt, fear gripping them as they turned to see a black SUV screeching around the corner, tires squealing against the pavement. "Get inside," came a barked order from the driver as the vehicle came to a sudden stop. Jane hesitated, glancing between the SUV and their pursuers closing in. "Who are they?" "It's a chance," Amy shouted, her instinct to survive overriding the uncertainty. There was no time for second guesses. She lunged for the door, yanking it open, pulling Jane inside just as the figure chasing them lunged forward. The driver slammed on the gas, and they lurched forward, the world outside blurring into streaks of light. The darkness receded, but Amy felt the weight of dread settle in her stomach. They were safe for now. But for how long? "Did you see who they were?" Jane's voice trembled, fists clenched as she fought to regain her breath. Amy shook her head. "I don't know." She started but cut off when she felt eyes on her, piercing through the chaos. Max was staring at her, a mix of fear and something darker swirling in his gaze. "They won T-stop." His words hung in the air, heavy with inevitability. "Unless we confront them, you need to understand, Amy. They own you now." The low rumble of the engine echoed in the silence, creating a rhythm of impending doom. They needed answers, but as the city raced by, a chilling question lingered. What if controlling the truth meant unleashing a nightmare they couldn't escape from? And in that haunting moment, a realization gripped Amy. The battle had only just begun. What awaited them on the other side of this twisted fate? The SUV careened through the shadowy streets, the roar of the engine drowning out their racing hearts. Amy's mind spun, trying to process everything. Max's warning replayed in her thoughts over and over. "They own you now." Jane's hands gripped the seat, knuckles white as they sped away from danger. "We need to figure out what's going on," she said, her voice shaky. "What have you done, Amy?" "I haven't done anything." Amy shot back, the edge of panic creeping into her tone. I tried to escape." "Clearly, they found you," Max interjected, his voice low, almost sorrowful. He stared out the window, watching the faded streetlights flicker by, haunted by memories she couldn't comprehend. A heavy silence settled in the car. Only the sound of tires slicing through puddles broke it. Then the driver, a tall figure with a bone structure to rival a model, glanced over his shoulder at them. "I'm Daryl," he said, his eyes hard and focused. "We don't have much time. They'll track this vehicle." "What do you mean, they?" Jane asked, her voice rising with fervor. "Who's looking for us?" Daryl didn't respond immediately, navigating them through the labyrinth of darkened streets. "There are groups, factions that want you," he said finally, his gaze flickering to Amy. "That tattoo you have, it's not just a symbol. It's a declaration. You carry the weight of something enormous." A shiver shot down Amy's spine as images of the tattoo's intricate lines swarmed through her mind. She suddenly felt exposed and vulnerable, like the ink was burning against her skin. "I don't get it," she whispered. "Why me?" Max shifted in his seat, his brows furrowed. "You have a power they want to control. I thought you were hidden, but it looks like they have their eyes everywhere." The car veered sharply, and Amy's stomach flipped as they took a hard turn into an alley. "Where are we going?" she asked, desperation threading her voice. "To a safe house," Daryl replied curtly. "Just until things cool down." As they peeled into an unmarked garage, the heavy metal door clanked shut behind them. Darkness enveloped them, cutting off the sounds of the outside world. As the engine quieted, a weighty silence fell, pressing in on all sides. Daryl turned to face them, a new urgency in his demeanor. "Listen, we need to figure out our next steps fast. They won't take long to find this vehicle." Amy felt a knot in her stomach tighten. "What do we do?" she asked, glancing between Max and Jane, who looked equally lost and scared. First, we need to break the connection they have to you, Daryl said. And for that, you need to understand what the tattoo really signifies. Can't we just get rid of it? Jane offered, her tone a mix of hope and desperation. It's not that simple. Max's voice dripped with resolve. They've put something inside it. If you try to remove it without knowing what you're dealing with, it could kill you. Amy felt as though the air had been sucked from the room. Kill me? She whispered. Yes. The single word hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. The dim garage was charged with fear. Amy's heart raced at the implications of Max's words. And if I confront them? If I stand and fight? They want to go easy on you, Max said gravely. But you'll need to learn to harness whatever power they think they see in you. If you don't, you'll never be free. We have to take back control, Jane insisted, clenching her fists in determination. We can't let them win. As the weight of their fate settled around them, a chilling realization flooded Amy's veins. She would need to embrace her past and the powers it bestowed to survive. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from outside the garage, shaking her from her thoughts. Daryl's face tightened. They're here. We have to move now. Panic surged as the three of them exchanged looks of horror. They had barely begun to understand the threat they faced, and now it had come crashing down on them like a storm. Into the back, Daryl commanded, hastily evading the urgency outside. Just as Amy reached the door leading out, it swung open and the darkness poured in. What would emerge from this chaos? Would they be prepared for the fight that was lurking in the shadows? Amy's heart pounded as she stumbled backward, colliding with Jane. The darkness seemed alive, swirling with dread. She could barely make out silhouettes outside, shadows stretching ominously towards them. Stay close. Daryl's voice crackled sharply, pulling them from their panic. He ushered them toward the back recesses of the garage, where stacks of old machinery loomed like silent sentinels. The air felt cold, heavy with the smell of oil and something metallic that made her skin crawl. What do we do? Jane whispered, her voice quivering. What's coming for us? Just be quiet, Daryl hissed, scanning the shadows. We can't be caught off guard. Footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate. Amy's breath caught in her throat. She could feel the pulse of her tattoo throbbing as if it were a living thing. It was a deep, unsettling reminder of the darkness that had found her. Max, she breathed, looking at him, searching for reassurance. His eyes were wide, reflecting the same fear she felt. The intensity in his gaze told her that the danger was real, more than anything they had faced before. Before he could answer, the heavy garage doors trembled as if something from outside was trying to force them open. Daryl pressed against the door, his muscles taut with tension. We need to keep them out, he warned, gritting his teeth. The footsteps halted abruptly. A slow, deliberate voice called out from the dark. You can't hide forever, Amy. We know what you are. A shiver of recognition ran through her. The voice was familiar yet twisted, and her pulse quickened with dread. It was a voice that belonged to someone from her past, someone she thought she'd escaped. Who is that? Jane asked, barely above a whisper. They're using her name to intimidate, Max replied, his voice a low growl. Don't give in to fear, Amy. Fight it. But Amy felt paralyzed. The tattoo dug into her skin painfully, as if urging her to embrace what it represented. Her mind raced. I can't fight something I don't understand. Then we must find out, Daryl said, his voice steady, betraying none of the anxiety she felt gripping her. If they want you, it means there's something powerful they think you possess. That tattoo, it's the key. Suddenly, they heard the sharp squeal of metal as the door buckled under pressure. It wouldn't hold much longer. We're out of time, Daryl exclaimed, glancing back at the entrance. We need to find a way out. A sickening crash followed, and the door buckled again. Dust and debris cascaded down, momentarily obscuring everything. In that fleeting moment, Amy felt an inexplicable urge, a calling that resonated deep within her, as if the tattoo were alive and urging her to stand tall. Forcing herself to breathe, she stepped forward into the darkness, feeling an odd sense of strength washing over her. Let me try, she said, her voice firmer than she felt. I need to see what I can do. What? No. Jane protested, grabbing her arm. Amy, it's too dangerous. Better dangerous than out of control, Max interjected, his voice steady, brimming with a conviction that grounded her. Whatever you have inside you, it's time to confront it. As the door splintered wide, flooding the garage with harsh light, Amy took a deep breath. The energy around her crackled as she focused on the tattoo, feeling its power resonating like a heartbeat beneath her skin. Stay behind me, she shouted, determination anchoring her voice. What stepped through that doorway was not merely a shadow, but a figure sullen, fierce, and familiar. Recognition washed over her, mingling horror with an inexplicable connection. Welcome back, Amy, the figure said, a twisted smile curling across its lips. Fear clutched her again. This was no coincidence. The moment she had been dreading had arrived. But would she rise to the challenge or crumble under the weight of her past? In that charged moment, faced with this haunting specter, she had to decide. Would her tattoo ignite a flame of power within her? Or would it be the silence that swallowed her whole? The figure advanced, its features sharpening in the sudden light. Amy's heartbeat raced, her instincts screaming for her to run. But she didn't. Something froze her to the spot, forming invisible chains that bound her in place. The creature was an echo of who she once knew, a twisted version that snarled with shadows. You thought you could escape? Taunted, stepping closer. Your tattoo speaks your history. You can't erase it, Amy. No, it's not true, she shouted, trembling as she fought back the memories rising like a tide. Images of their past crashed through her mind, a childhood ripped apart, secrets baked in betrayal. The thing before her seemed alive with every pain she had tried to bury. Daryl moved to shield her, fists clenched, muscles tense. Get back, he yelled, his voice booming with authority. Max mirrored his stance, positioning himself protectively beside Amy. They squeezed closer together, forming a wall against the approaching horror. Yet the spirit of her past pressed harder, its laugh echoing through the garage, mocking every attempt she made to shake off the fear. You'll never find peace. But Amy felt the tattoo pulsing against her skin, warm and insistent. It was no longer just an emblem of pain. It was a reminder of her strength, a catalyst waiting to unfold. You don't know me, she cried, the raw defiance surprising even herself. Then learn. With that, the figure lunged, its shadowy hands reaching for her throat. With instinct ignited, Amy flared her arms, and a violent burst of light erupted from her tattoo. It flickered like fire, bright and blinding, slicing through the darkness. The figure reeled back, howling as if struck. Daryl and Max exchanged glances, awe sparking in their eyes. What just happened? Max stammered, stepping back slightly as the brightness enveloped the garage. I have no idea, Amy shouted over the noise, feeling exhilarated yet terrified. The energy rolled through her, flickering and pulsating, like waves crashing against a shore. Then, slowly, the figure reformed from the shadows, but its features morphed, shifting between lines of anger and despair. You can't harness that. It's a curse, it rasped, voice strained. You think this is a gift? It's your doom. Amy trembled, the weight of those words sinking in. Was it true? Had her pursuit of power only wrapped her deeper in the chain of her past? I'll decide what it is, she shouted defiantly. Empowered by the light, she stepped forward, moving past the barriers that had kept her in fear for too long. You don't control me anymore, the figure screamed, a sound twisted with rage, echoing throughout the garage. Bits of machinery rattled violently. The very foundation seemed to shake. Amy felt a shift, a swell, as if the energy emanating from her tattoo was fighting back, amplifying her strength. The figure's grip strained, momentarily faltering. You'll pay for this, it hissed, retreating into the shadows. But Amy sensed its promise wasn't the end. I won't pay for anything, Amy vowed, defiance dripping from every word. The power surged through her veins, urging her. It was time to break the cycle, to rewrite her story. But just as the light dimmed and silence fell, a new noise sliced through the tension, footsteps approaching, heavy and purposeful. "Hold on." Daryl's voice cut through the silence, clearly alert to the incoming danger. "We need to get out of here." Yet Amy felt a conflict bubbling inside her. Would she follow the call of the shadows that still grasped at her heart, or embrace the light that shimmered in the depths of her being? As the shadows shifted, illustrating the forms they didn't recognize, a chilling whisper floated through the air. "You cannot escape your fate." Chills raced down her spine, leaving her breathless. What darkness lingered, waiting to reclaim her? The figure was gone, but the question lingered. Which side of her would she choose? Would the tattoo truly guide her towards her liberation, or would it be the very thing that ruined her? Time was ticking. The footsteps grew louder, pounding like a war drum that quickened Amy's pulse. Daryl moved to the garage door, his body tense and ready for anything. Max stayed by Amy, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. "Get behind me," Daryl insisted, glancing over his shoulder. "We don't know what's coming." The air felt electric, crackling as if the tension could explode into chaos at any moment. The shadows twisted, swirling around Amy like living smoke. She could feel the heat of her tattoo pulsing against her skin, urging her to act, to choose. "Are you all right?" Max asked, his whisper barely louder than a breath. I don't know," Amy replied, and the honesty of her words hit harder than any blow. She wanted to believe in the light, in this newfound power. But the sinister remnants of her past curled like a fist around her heart, squeezing until she gasped. The garage door creaked, and a silhouette emerged. Dark, imposing, it blocked the light behind it. Then the shadow stepped forward, and Amy's stomach dropped. The figure was familiar. "Ethan," she breathed, recognition churning a mix of dread and disbelief. Ethan, the boy from her childhood. Only now he wore a smug smile twisted with malevolence. "What a surprise to see you here, Amy." His eyes glinted with something predatory. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice shaky. Fear clawed at her, but underneath that was a flicker of defiance. She wouldn't let him take her down again. "I just came to see how you've been," he sneered. "Looks like you've made some interesting friends." He eyed Daryl and Max, a smirk spreading. "But you know your precious tattoo? It won't protect you from what I have in store." "Stay away from her," Daryl growled, stepping forward. "Oh, but this is all part of the game." Ethan took another step, and shadows intertwined around him, merging with the darkness of the garage. "You think you have power now? You think that light can save you? That tattoo is a beacon, Amy, and it draws in more than just your sorrow. It invites danger." With a sudden movement, Ethan raised his hand, and the shadows responded, flaring to life. They twisted and writhed, sending a shiver through Amy. Energy crackled, and an icy wind swept through the room, pushing against her skin. "Get back," Max shouted, but Amy stood her ground as panic bubbled in her chest. "No, I won't let you intimidate me," Amy shouted, her voice strong despite the fear swirling within her. This was her moment. The tattoo blazed, prompting her heart to race. She had felt that energy before. It was a connection to everything buried inside her. "Then let us see how you handle this," Ethan snapped, and as his words echoed, the shadows surged toward her, dark tendrils reaching out like claws. And that flash of a second, Amy chose. She closed her eyes and summoned the light from her tattoo. It erupted from her, shimmering in a pure wave of golden brilliance, pushing against the tendrils of darkness. An explosion of power burst forth, illuminating the garage like the dawn's first light. Ethan's laughter transformed into a cry of terror as the shadows recoiled. Daryl and Max stood by her side, awestruck. "Do it, Amy," Daryl yelled, pride swelling in his voice. As her energy surged, she felt something shift within, unraveling chains that once held her in place. But out of the light, she could barely make out Ethan's expression, twisted with rage and something else, fear. "You think this is over?" he spat, his voice echoing with the promise of vengeance. This is just the beginning. The light began to dim, and as it flickered, Amy gasped, dread settling back over her. "Run!" Max shouted, urgency snapping her back to reality. Panic surged through the group as Ethan's shadows could still be seen swirling like smoke, whispering their threats. Would the light be enough to keep them safe, or was the darkness just lying in wait? As they stumbled toward the exit, Amy couldn't shake the feeling that the battle had just begun. What price would she pay for harnessing the power within her tattoo? And what truly lay in the shadows, plotting and waiting for her next move? Time was running out. The cold air rushed past them as they burst into the night, a frantic escape from the dangers lurking in the garage. The light from Amy's tattoo faded, leaving her feeling exposed. "This way," Daryl shouted, leading them into the nearby woods. The shadows seemed to follow, a presence too close for comfort. Amy stumbled, her thoughts racing. What was that? She gasped, glancing over her shoulder. The sense of dread twisted in her gut, dark and pulsing. Max grabbed her arm. "Whatever it was, it's not done. We need to keep moving." His voice trembled with urgency, lacing through the crisp night air. The forest loomed around them, tall trees casting long, sinister silhouettes. "Shouldn't we fight it?" Amy asked, her heart thudding like the drum she felt earlier. "I can summon the light again." "Not against something like that," Daryl replied sharply, scanning their surroundings. "Ethan was empowered by those shadows. He knows how to manipulate them. We need to regroup and figure out what to do." But Amy couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing in the eye of a storm, one that was about to unleash its fury. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the residual warmth of her tattoo. "He said it draws in danger. I thought it would protect us." Daryl's eyes softened, seeing the conflict brewing within her. But not without understanding how to wield it. "We need to find a safe place. Figure out our next move." As they moved deeper into the woods, the trees began to close in around them, creating a suffocating embrace. An owl hooted nearby, breaking the silence. Amy's heart raced, adrenaline and fear mixing within her. Suddenly, a rustle behind them made Amy spin around. "What was that?" she whispered. Her breath quickened, eyes scanning the darkness. The shadows seemed to dance, teasing the edges of her vision. "It's okay. Just keep moving," Max urged, glancing nervously at the nearby trees. Each snap of a twig heightened their tension, weaving a thread of fear through the air. They stumbled into a small clearing bathed in moonlight. Amy's heart sank as she realized they were exposed. "This isn't safe," she exclaimed, panic fluttering at the edges of her voice. Daryl placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "It's better than being confined. We need to think. We need to understand what we're against." "What do we do about Ethan?" Max asked, his voice barely a whisper. "He'll come for us." "I know what he said," Amy began, "but I feel this pull inside me. It's like the tattoo wants me to do something more." Daryl's focus sharpened. "What do you mean?" "She wants me to learn. To embrace the power," Amy replied, her grip tightening around her tattoo, now faintly glowing in response to her inner conflict. "But what if it's a trap? What if it leads us straight back to Ethan?" The night air thickened with uncertainty, and Amy felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her like a heavy fog. Would the light truly be her salvation, or would it only shine a spotlight on her fears, exposing her when she least expected it? A distant howl echoed through the trees, sending a chill crawling up her spine. The shadows in the woods darkened, heavy with anticipation, as if waiting for her to make a choice. "I need to figure this out," Amy murmured, determination budding in her chest. "We can't run forever. I have to confront the darkness." Daryl and Max exchanged a wary glance, the unspoken fear hanging between them like a thick mist. "What if it gets worse?" Max warned, the worry etched across his features. "Then I'll deal with it," Amy insisted, pulling away from their anxious stares. "It's time to discover what this tattoo really means and to confront Ethan. I refuse to be scared anymore." But as she spoke, a shadow flickered at the edge of the clearing, and a figure stepped into the moonlight. It was Ethan, a wicked grin plastered across his face. "You really think you can face me, Amy? I admire your courage, but it's misplaced." Her breath hitched in her throat as he approached, darkness swirling around him like a cloak. "Welcome to the real game," he taunted, and behind him, the shadows began to shift, readying themselves for a fight that was just beginning. Could Amy truly embrace the power within her and confront the looming darkness? Or had she just signed her own fate? As the moonlight painted the clearing, Amy felt fury and fear whirling within her, battling for control. Ethan's sinister grin ignited something primal inside her. "You'll regret underestimating me," she shot back, her voice trembling yet resolute. Daryl and Max, positioned behind her, shared a look of anxious bravery. They wouldn't let her face Ethan alone. "Not now." "We're with you," Max said, fists clenched, eyes fierce. Ethan laughed, dark and mocking, slowly circling them. "How sweet. But what can you do against shadows that know you better than you know yourself?" Echoing through the woods, his words turned the night into a living entity, swirling with whispers that tugged at buried fears and painful memories. Amy clenched her hands into fists, feeling the warmth of her tattoo seeping through her skin. The serpent seemed to respond, wrapping around her emotions, urging her to embrace the chaos. "I may not know everything," Amy said, each word gaining strength. "But I want to be a pawn in your game." She focused on the tattoo, breathing deeply until that familiar energy began to swell, filling her. Ethan's expression changed, the amusement slipping as he sensed her shift. "Try it then," he sneered, shadows snapping around him like living creatures. With a swift gesture, he unleashed them, tendrils of darkness lashing out, hissing as they reached for her. The shadows stretched towards Amy, and she felt the panic clawing at her throat. Time slowed, adrenaline surging. She couldn't let them take her. "Together," Daryl shouted, and Amy felt the heat of solidarity at her back. Closing her eyes, Amy channeled every ounce of defiance, picturing the light, its brightness flooding through the shadows that coiled and twisted around her. "I am not afraid," she shouted, pouring her will into the tattoo. A radiant pulse erupted from her, igniting the night with dazzling light, overwhelming the darkness. The tendrils twisted and shrieked, dissipating into vapor against the luminous force of her power. Ethan's sneer transformed into shock, but it quickly evolved into rage. "You think that's enough?" he roared, stepping back as a halo of her light encircled them. "We're not done yet," Max urged, raising his voice above the chaos, encouraging Amy and grounding them all. "Keep it going." Amy focused deeper, drawing from the memories woven in her tattoo the pain, the joy, the courage she never acknowledged. It was a signal to the past, a tempest of power surging through her veins. With another surge, she unleashed a wave of brilliant light, and suddenly, the clearing sparked as if struck by lightning. Ethan staggered, shadows shrinking away from the brilliance. "No, you can't defeat what you don't understand," he screamed, rage twisting his features. "I'll understand it." Amy stepped forward, claiming the ground beneath her. "From now on, I'll carry my past, not be shackled by it." Her voice rang out, a fierce melody of resolve. Ethan's shadows writhed and twisted, flaring against her resolve. But the shimmering light held steady, pushing the dark back. "You think you can control this? You can't outrun your origins. You belong to the darkness." "Not anymore," Amy shouted back, every ounce of her will pouring into the words. A final explosion of light blossomed outward, illuminating the entire clearing, casting Ethan's figure into stark relief. With a mighty roar, Ethan was swallowed by the light, shadows consumed until nothing remained. The stillness that followed echoed in the forest, a broken piece of the past shattered, leaving behind the sweet scent of liberation. Then, silence trapped them in the moment, the air heavy with what had transpired. Breathless, Amy turned to Daryl and Max. They were wide-eyed, expressions mirroring disbelief and elation. "You did it," Max finally said, voice thick with awe. "You really did it." "It was us," Amy corrected, a shaky breath escaping. We all did this together. Daryl nodded, pride sparkling in his eyes. That was only the first step, Amy. There's more to understand about yourself and that tattoo. But you're not alone. A soft glow pulsed gently beneath Amy's fingertips where her tattoo lay, an indication of untapped potential waiting to be unraveled. It was a reminder of her past. Yes, but it also warned against the shadows that may return. As the sun began to rise, bathing the woods in warm hues, the dawning day felt like a promise. Where do we go from here? She asked, her voice steadying with each passing moment. We find out what exactly we unleashed and what else is after you. Daryl replied, determination resounding in his tone. Together, Amy echoed, feeling a swelling of hope mixed with the familiar echoes of her past. It was time to take control of her story. No more hiding. Turning to her friends, she felt the weight of support anchoring her. And as they stepped forward into the light emerging from the trees, she was ready to face whatever darkness loomed next. Where the night had clawed at her past, the dawn now hinted towards new beginnings, a future brightened by the light she had finally embraced. Now, the question loomed, would she remain the ember of courage lighting the way ahead, or would she allow fear to flicker and fade once more? Only time would tell, but in that moment, surrounded by her friends, hope rippled, coursing through her veins like wildfire. It was time for a new chapter. And as you immerse yourself in this conclusion, don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find this adventure. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. The community thrives on your voice. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share, because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.